that's just wanting to come out. So then from here, we're gonna start our stem. I'm just gonna kind of do a little whimsical kind of spirally or curly Q stem, and then I'm gonna have it kind of curl around. Believe it or not, I'm actually warm right now. Of course I'm indoors, so that will help. But I dressed this morning to take my dogs for a long walk, and I think I overdressed. I was just kind of like a little bit freaked out from all the hype and the talk about the storm. So I put the scarf, the boots, the flannels, I just bundled up a little too much, and I was out there sweating. And now I got the sun streaming in, and I am warm. So with this mushroom here, I wanted to give it a little bit of a personality, so I kind of bent the stem, I curled the stem off to the left there, and you can make your mushroom however you like. I thought we'd put some cute cottagecore items all arranged on a page to be really sweet, like maybe a teapot, maybe some butterflies, maybe a bird's nest or a bird cage or a snail. Let's see what inspires us. So I'm just sketching out just a basic right now, but of course we're gonna add much more details later. So you sketch out what you'd like to see. And I think I'm gonna add, I normally do these little ferns and little plants later as like filler for once I see how my composition takes place, and I might see where these might be needed. But I'm just gonna do a little bit right now. And this is just some sort of whimsical curling plant behind the mushroom. On that side, and maybe I'll do a few over here on this side. And of course, we can add color later. And much more detail and shading. Shading, I think, is my favorite part of drawing. I really love the shading because it just is, it's like that point where where it all comes to life. It's almost like, you know how when you're cleaning a house or when you're renovating a house, and you have that one point where everything kind of comes together. For me, that point is shading. It's almost as though if you're into music and you're playing music and then you add something complex, it just adds so much. So that is not my final mushroom. That's just my little sketch for now. And I want to do something over here. Maybe a bird. So to do a bird, let's make it very simple. Let's start off like with a kind of like an oval shape, semi-oval shape. Almost like, well, it kind of looks like a sad mango. But, you know, we do have erasers on our pencils, and that's why I sketch very lightly. So now I'm going to change this oval a little bit by adding a little bit of a circular shape here. So I have a little bit of a circular shape. I'm going to try to blend them together a little bit here. And maybe from this point, I can bring a wing out like this. Some feathers. I'm just having fun. I'll bring that in there. So if that side has wings, flapping like that, well then we know the other side needs the wings. And again, we're gonna add a lot and change a lot, so I am not upset that this bird is not perfect. We're gonna make it as cute as can be, but we're just not done yet. Now, the beak, okay, I think that, of course, that's a detail I can work on later. But I seem to like my birds to have low eyes. I just think they're so cute with the low, wide-set eyes. Just to be whimsical and cute. So maybe I'll put the beak a little bit lower. I'm not set on that yet. I can play around with this. I'm really only using very light strokes, so still not sure, but I'll come back to this little guy a little later. I want to taper in the bottom here and give him some tail feathers out this way. And that's the wonderful thing about pencils and sketching. One line doesn't have to define everything because you've got lots of little sketch lines. So if you like this one, you can kind of draw around that. I think these wings might need to be a little bit longer. The eye is driving me crazy, which isn't like me. Usually I don't worry about that until the end, but I'm not getting what I want today with it. Okay, I'm gonna leave that guy go for a little while until I can figure out more about how I want him to look. But for sure, he needs some little claw feet. Hopefully your bird looks less sickly than mine, but this is this is about having fun. And darn that eye, I'm just gonna come entirely back to it because, okay, we'll see what happens with that eye. Okay, and what else is cottagecore? Definitely lanterns, flowers, snails, butterflies. We can do a little butterfly. I see some space up here. So doing butterfly, I'll make a little one. We'll start the wing kind of like a sideways heart. The top of the wing, and then we can do the bottom like almost like a widespread teardrop that doesn't have a top, and kind of mimic that on the other side there. And then I know a lot of people like to kind of do that, the edge that has the kind of like the back and forth ragged curly edge. I know there's a name for this and I'm drawing a blank. I forget what it's called, but just basically not a straight line, like a bumpy line. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this part of the butterfly is too big. It's just imposing too much on this part of the sketch and I need more space there. So lucky for me, as I said, I'm just using very light tracing lines so I can go back, just kind of make it much more minimal. Try to get a general feel of how I want it to be. just kind of almost like blocking. If you took theater, or if you're taking theater, it's a term, just kind of like positioning everything, because you'll come back later to get to it, but right now we're just kind of assembling them in a place on the paper that looks nice and is pleasing to the eye. Obviously, we're going to be adding a lot more details to that butterfly. Going back to the bird, make some space there by changing his head, this butterfly. I still do not love the spacing between the butterfly and the bird, so let's see if indeed we're able to work with that later. And then for the center here, perhaps a bird cage. Bird cage, there we go. Which is fun and easy to draw. It's just like a U shape. I've got a lesson going on. And then that was my husband just leaving for work. Okay, so this would be like almost like a terrarium. You're making an upside down U or a horseshoe, and then kind of like a cylinder, not exactly a cylinder, but like a ovally shape at the bottom there. And we can bring that down a little bit here. Connect that. And this can be where a little guy will stay. And make another one here. Another one here. We can another U here at the top, just like a curved line, that's all it is. And one on top of that. And what if we then went and connected there? Here. Here. And then maybe this is going to be featured a little more prominently, a little bit more darkly, and can work on the bird cage. Again, we're just positioning things right now. We don't have to worry about anything being perfect, and it's shaping up actually to have a little bit of a spring theme, I see, so it just took us in that direction. Sometimes your art will decide one thing will inspire the next, so even though you may think you didn't make a decision to draw something, something triggered it. And so for some reason, we're thinking in terms of it being springtime. Is that wishful thinking, or some of you missing spring? I know spring is beautiful here. I'm a transplant. I'm not originally from the area. And when I first came here, it was wintertime. And I'm from a part of the world where it's never cold. We never have seasons. And I was really looking for a real white Christmas and to feel the autumn leaves crunch and to just hear birds sing in the springtime. and not always be so sweltering hot. So yes, I was from Florida. I'm from Florida. I do not miss it one bit, not even now knowing that we have this weather coming upon us. I still do not miss it. The people here are so much nicer. And in my opinion, they just seem so real. They're real people. At any rate, so that's our bird cage. And we can put a little guy in here too. Yeah, let's put a little guy in here. Let's, how will we start? A sketch. I'm just kind of bringing a curved line and some tail feathers here. What's this guy gonna look like? And draw his wing. And maybe a belly. Maybe this one will have like a noble face, more like an eagle or something. So not such a round face. Maybe he'll have a proud stance. Almost as if to say, I might be in a cage, but my spirit is very much alive. I think he knows he's going to be getting free soon. Okay, so it's got a nice round belly, nice, very well fed bird. I hope this eye doesn't give me the same amount of trouble that the other one did. Still haven't decided on that other eye there. Now, since he is sitting and he's not in flight, and just some silly little textures on him for his feathers. Or maybe he'll be, maybe he'll be sitting on one of those little perches that they like. Let's do his little claw feet. And let's put a perch in here. Now he's sitting on his little perch. Now this is going to be going through. And just the general idea of that going through there. So what is next for us here? Cottagecore ideas, Cottagecore ideas, flowers, always good. Teapots, always cute. Who doesn't love tea on a warm day? Or coffee. Coffee's a good one too. So coffee, tea. Maybe this composition calls for a teapot. So let's see, where might we fit a teapot? What about right here? Can maybe do, let's start with like a round, almost a circle. And you know what? It has to fit around the cage. So what if we brought our tea spout out over here? Well, this is going to be a very whimsical teapot because I'm drawing it to fit the page as opposed to what I would actually expect, but the dimensions, it's really okay. I like whimsical, so let's draw Maybe not so much. Then I'm going to cut off some of that bottom there. You know, I do a lot of digital drawing, which I also love, but like with a pencil in my hand, not to be like dorky, but it's almost like the feeling of when it's the difference of wearing shoes in a house and being barefoot outside. The pencil in the hand just kind of like grounds you, and it's a really great feeling. If I still do love digital art, I do not love AI art. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying I love creating digital art. That said, there's nothing like pencil and paintbrush and paper. Nothing like it. Now this teapot, I am finding it pretty hilarious, and I think part of the reason why is its positioning. Like it's just at an awkward position. When someone has their teapot tilted like that, surely there's going to be some sort of something pouring out. The other thing is the bird is just too close. So this is a problem that I'm going to have to fix. That it does make me kind of wish I was using a digital version right now, because digitally I could just outline this and bring it up or minimize it or make it smaller. But there's so many advantages to having pencil and paper too. And look, we didn't limit ourselves because we're using light sketch marks. So I'm bringing up the floor of I guess it's the floor of the birdhouse a little bit, and that's okay because nothing's permanent yet. We haven't set any kind of an ink to the paper. We're just pencil sketching. It's a work in progress. So here we are. Our composition is taking shape. We can add details to the teapot later. What about a lantern? A lantern's one of those really great kitschy kind of adorable items that are kind of reminiscent of like vintage, and also for our purposes it fits here so that'll work for us. So I'm kind of doing like a rounded squarish shape, and then come down from there, like maybe with one of those same U shapes like I did up there, and just bring it around a little oval, coming down, bringing that down. Okay, now how do we want our top to look? We can do another one of those ovals. My dog, she wants another walk. She's very spoiled. She just had a very long walk and she wants another one. I think she feels the sunshine. She's like, why aren't we outside? It is sunny. No, I'm gonna need some work with this because I'm forgetting how lanterns look, but I know there's a piece here that goes like this. There's a piece here that goes like this. So Yeah, I might call that all one piece. I might just call this all one piece, because I'm going by memory, and my memory apparently is not accurate. I think if you were to actually look at a lantern, that might be a better way to go when you're drawing yours. Mine's a little bit silly, but you know what? I'm gonna just maybe fill in this little area right here with another one of those sweet little plants, those branches for balance, and no, not like that. That one wants to curl that way, and that one wants to curl that way. And then there can just be some simple flowers scattered here and there. With the branches, and even some hearts. Just to balance composition. And make one of those hearts on the teapot. You know what? Maybe it's a lovebird. Maybe it's a lovebird. Maybe they're in love. And how about, speaking of flowers, why don't we do maybe some flowers over here, and maybe some sort of a garden animal or a garden insect here. We could do, make a larger, and draw your favorite flower. Some of my favorite flowers I've drawn are not even real flowers. They're just make-believe in all kinds of fantasy colors, or sometimes fancy shapes. I like to draw a lot of little pistils, are they called? Pistons, or I like to draw a lot of these. But you know, now being here in Virginia, and Giles County in particular, with the New River, I see all kinds of foliage and seeds and plants, and some of which aren't good to touch, but many of which are really fun to gather. And you know, I make candles, so I would include pine cones, and well, you got to be careful with pine cones, because you don't want to get them anywhere near the wick, because as you may guess, they are flammable. But today I found some thistle, quite by accident. That was actually one of my doggies got into it. And there's some really interesting, beautiful plants and wildlife here that I never got to see before. So I'm really loving it, really enjoying that. Not loving or enjoying these leaves I just drew, so I'm taking these back. I wanted to give them a try, and I don't like them there. Come back later with something that looks a little bit more apropos of that. But yeah, I found I dry wildflowers and found some very interesting pods and nuts actually at this one park in Parishburg, which is really cool. I think everybody must know this park. It is right close to downtown. It's a massive park. It has, I guess, what used to be a school. It's right next to a school. It's right next to a community center. That park, I saw a groundhog there. I saw black walnuts there. My grandbabies love that park. And so do I. Okay, so, what about a snail? That'd be fun. Snails are simple to draw. You just have like a, kind of like a rounded shell that kind of creeps in, almost like not an asterisk. What's spiral? That's the word I'm looking for, like a spiral. And then the shell kind of gently curves up and down. And then this sluggy thing comes pouring out of it. It's very sluggy. But somehow it's still cute. That is my other dog. And dogs are all around. And he's scratching at the carpet. So there's our snail heading for the tea. I don't like how he's imposing on the bird. I think I may have drawn the bird cage a little bit too large because I had to move the floor twice now. Maybe I won't move the floor this time. I'll just let the snail impose. The snail's going to learn his lesson if the bird is hungry. So this can be just our basic beginning sketch. As I was saying earlier, the most fun part, as far as I'm concerned, is coming right up, because that would be shading, in my opinion, and adding much more fine details. So if you are down to do that part with me, stick around, because that's going to be on the next video, and it is going to turn this little sketch from blah to so amazing. So I hope to see you there. Before I go, I'll just add a little leaf over here just to kind of even out the composition. And maybe, still haven't decided what to do with this area right here, but when we come back with the